we will now dive into the main event for UFC 199, Brian. It will be the champion, Luke Rockhold, against the challenger, well, now the new challenger, Michael the Count Bisping.
Yes, and I am more excited for this fight than I was Rockhold-Weidman, which I don't know if that tells you something about the way Weidman's drawing. I don't know if that tells you something about the fact that people are so tired of immediate rematches, especially if a guy doesn't deserve one.
Yeah, especially when you get outclassed the way you did in the first title fight.
Yeah, and I'm a New York guy, so I'm a big Weidman fan.
You'd be a Weidman guy.
Yeah, so this is...
You guys just turn your back on your own all the time up there.
I mean, it is New York City. It's unforgiving, trust me. Rockhold Bisping, Jacare was the guy who deserved this fight. Problem was he just fought at 198, tore his meniscus.
Yep.
He wasn't going to come in. This is the perfect time for Michael Bisping to get his title shot. Because I thought he maybe after beating Anderson Silva, I'm like, okay, this guy, if he gets a title shot, his next fight, that's fine with me. Because Bisping has earned it. He's been in the UFC for a decade, 25 fights. This guy has been through the ringer and back, and he's finally getting his first and possibly last. I mean, we don't know if he's going to ever get another title shot against Rockhold on 2 weeks' notice.
Yeah,
which it's so tough. For anybody to fight.
It's tough, but you have to remember, he didn't fight too long ago.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's been just off and doing nothing. He just fought Silva maybe a month ago?
Yeah. Silva was in February.
Was it? Wow, man.
Late February.
Wow, it seemed like it was a lot earlier than that. Wow, it's been that long. Okay.
The point, you make a good point given the fact that fighters should be so used to guys leaving co-main events and main events of fights.
You got to be ready.
Well, you should be ready. If you're up close to the top and you want a title shot, stay ready.
Mm-hmm.
Because,
especially when you're somebody like Bisping, who you really need this opportunity to kind of cash in your title opportunity.
Yeah, when you saw guys like Mendez and Edgar want to fill in immediately with Jose Aldo being out, this is the kind of opportunity you can get. I mean, Javier Dos Anjos is out. Nate Diaz, I'll take the fight on 9 days. And look what happens then. Mm-hmm. Rockhold Bisping is a fun fight. We've seen it before, though. And it did not turn out well for Michael Bisping. Second round submission back in 2014 for Rockhold of Bisping. And as much as I want to see, people are rooting for Michael Bisping in this fight because he's been through it all. This is one of those things, I see Bisping having the same chance of Faber beating Cruz. I just think it's a really unlikely scenario, and a lot of things have to happen perfectly for Bisping to get the title here. And Rockhold he's such a dynamic fighter. He's got the length, he's got the moves, he's got everything that you would want. He's got the power behind those vicious kicks. He's got an awesome submission game. I don't see the clear favorite here is Luke Rockhold. What do you see out of this fight?
No, I agree with, and it's going to sound cliche when we say this, but Bisping is going to have to do what he does best.
Yeah,
and that's go for the kill. And you have nothing to lose here. You have, no. I mean, you've lost the one fight to him, not looking good. So what do you have to lose here? This is your opportunity. You took the fight on 2 week notice. Go out there, and you've seen it happen. I think that's the one thing that every fighter, when and they say it all the time. Look, anybody that goes into an MMA fight has a puncher's chance, and it's been so accurate, especially these last couple of UFCs. And you see some of the Miocic fight, and I keep going back to that because I don't think a lot of people thought Miocic would honestly be able, whether it was Verdum not allowing him, but I don't think people thought that he would be able to get into to land those punches. And sometimes I think the champion mentality is that I'm better than this guy. I've already beaten all this competition. I'm better than this guy. And they end up leaving themselves open.
And the argument you have to make is right in front of us with Chris Weidman. Mm-hmm. Chris Weidman threw a wheel kick.
Yeah.
Because he was desperate.
Yeah.
These champions kind of get into that mindset. If they get tagged a little bit, they seem to get a little nervous. And you even get the best who kind of fall into this trap. And Luke Rockhold is a minus 1,100 favorite.
Oh, I got him as a -9 on the one I'm looking at.
Well, the UFC website is a minus 1,100 favorite. I'm guessing that's only going to grow until the late money comes in on Bisping to get a good price. Rockhold should beat him. He made easy work of Bisping last time. And when you watch Bisping fight, I mean, he got rocked by Silva at the end of that third round, and we thought he was done. But he did more than Anderson Silva and won it via decision. Bisping's the type of guy who likes to do our favorite thing that we like to say on this podcast, make it ugly. He wants to fight in a phone booth. He wants to close the distance. He wants to go after him. He wants to fight. He wants to throw punches. He wants to do all of this stuff. And with the exception of his Rockhold fight, he's won 4 out of the last 5. He beat a tough guy in CB Dalloway. He won a tough fight against Styles Laitis, and then he beat Silva. And you have to give him credit for what he's still being able to do. It's just, is he going to be able to cut off the cage and be able to cut off the distance against a guy like Rockhold who's got a 77-inch reach? He's got a 5-inch reach on him.
The 5-inch reach there, and 1 inch on the kicks. But I just, the question is Rockhold gonna allow him? Because sometimes I haven't seen Rockhold fight. This is his first title defense. And sometimes, for some reason, it seems like the champions, once they become a champion, they flip it a little bit. They try something. I don't know why. If it's not broke, why are they trying to fix it? And you see him kind of fight differently. Will that happen to Rockhold? And will Bisping be able to take advantage if he does do that? And I think that's going to be Bisping's only chance.
Yes, for sure. And I go back, when I watch Rockhold and you watch him in that Weidman fight, and Weidman had the advantage in a little bit, but the strikes begin to mount, and just go and go.
The second round it started, and then kick from nowhere, whatever.
And I have a full breakdown of the fight that you can see on the fullmountainmma.com, of course, but I didn't mention in the breakdown the Lyoto Machida fight. And that fight back in April of last year kind of showed me, Rockhold, when he wants to be as dangerous as he is, can instantly shut down anybody. He's got that type of potential at this weight class, which is a big thing to say given the fact that Anderson Silva dominated this weight class for 6 years.
But does he get lazy now that he's gotten the meal?
That's the key here. He's got to continue. He's got this kind of I don't give a blank mentality when it comes to media interviews, and he's got this cocky arrogance to it.
Yeah, that's the thing that kind of rubs me the wrong way with him. Is that just a act, or is that because sometimes you get that cockiness in there and you think you already got this fight won because you beat this guy before rather easily.
Yeah,
and you set yourself up. It's a mindset. They say fighting. What is it? It's 80% mental or whatever, however they say.
90% mental, 10% physical.
There you go. Thank you very much for that. I didn't even remember what it was. So, right there, could that help Bisping out? Because, every interview I've seen and the build-up for this fight is just, Bisping's kind of you see him being, I don't know, maybe it's because he's been in the media and doing those, the desk jobs, so he's kind of got it down to a science of how he can just kind of be not nonchalant about it, but very calm about it, and just monotone voice about what he wants to do and this and that. And then they go to Rockhold, and it's just I'm going to win. Is it confidence or is it arrogance? And it's kind of on that borderline.
As much as you want, these guys obviously play up their personalities in the media if they want, and then sometimes you get guys that's legit who they are. And I think Rockhold's a little bit of both. I think you have this guy who's worked hard and grinded all the way and done all this stuff. But then you do have that, that's kind of his personality. He believes what he can do, and you need that, especially as a champion. You go out in every single fight. But you can't let that kind of filter into your mind in the fight, because nobody, you rarely get a guy who can kind of just talk so much crap during a fight and take your eye off the prize here, because they can hit it just as hard as you. This is the UFC. This is the highest level of mixed martial arts. Yeah. people are like they're getting paid for a reason too. So you can't underestimate people, but at the same time, you need to have that confidence. You need to have that thing about you that says, I'm the best in the world, and I'm going to go out and do this. And
but you got to be able to have that balance, though, I think. Yes. You got to have that balance. And so far, most of the time, it seems like, and again, just that most of the champions get a little bit over to the cocky side and get caught. Look, that's why Weidman got the belt.
Yeah.
Silva got cocky, did his little dance, and he tagged him.
Completely.
I mean, he put his hands down, did his dance around, and Weidman nailed him. I mean, the cockiness of it after a while. But I guess, look, if you're Silva and you've been dominating as long as you were dominating, I guess after a while, you earn it?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the champions, you have, like, the turnaround of champions.
It's ridiculous right now.
Tremendous, with the exception of Mighty Mouse.
Yeah, I mean, you got your
with the exception of John Jones, who's not even the champion right now, because of the fact that all the stuff that went on with him. You have a bunch of turnover, and this is like people are starting to the fighters are starting to catch up with one another, where you have these razor thin differences between everybody. And the biggest example of that is, of course, Ronda Rousey, and we'll talk about her in a little bit. But with Rockhold, middleweight is such a nasty division, and Weidman is out. We don't know when he comes back. That neck injury is a little Kurt Angle-y a little bit. Like
I mean, Kurt Angle actually sent out a tweet to him to get in touch with him, and he'll, he's like, hey, I know what you do with your necks, and so.
Yeah, it's a little professional wrestling kind of like when guys get that neck injury, you usually don't come back and be the guy that you were.
No.
Jacare's getting up there. He just tore his meniscus. He's going to be able to start training again supposedly in 6 weeks because they probably just took some out and then just folded it over. And that's the kind of surgery that has a time frame on it. It's got a ticking clock.
Yep. When
it comes to that sort of stuff, it's not a complete meniscus tear.
Especially when you're doing what they do with their bodies.
Yeah, it's a Dwayne Wade injury. That's what I love to call it when it comes to that sort of stuff. And Vitor is completely on the way out, it seems like, after that. So Bisping's the next guy, and he's like you said, this is his shot. He's going to leave it all out on the line. They showed in the UFC Embedded, it's his kid is picking against him, maybe. Like, this is the kind of thing where he's got no pressure on him at all. And Rockhold's got to go out and deliver a dominant champion performance to signify, like, I'm the champ, I'm the middleweight champ, I'm going to run through these people. He's in the prime of his career. He's got all the talent in the world. And this is kind of an emphatic statement that he can make. Whether or not he'll be able to is another story, despite the fact that it's 2 weeks' notice. He may be in the best shape of his life, but he hasn't been preparing for Bisping all this time. And will he take him lightly because he knows how he fights? That's a great question. How do you see this fight playing out?
Oh, you're going to make me go first? I was hoping you would go first on this.
I can go first.
Right.
I mean, my opinion's out there. I got Rockhold beating Bisping by third round TKO. I think Bisping hangs with him for the first couple of rounds, and I think that gas tank just goes on empty because, I mean, Bisping's got great cardio, don't get me wrong, but I think it's just going to be a little too much to deal with the more athletic and more pinpoint accuracy. He's got a lot less room for error here, and I think he runs out of gas by the third round. Rockhold catches him. What do you think?
I think I'm going to end up probably taking this one back, but I'm going to go with Bisping.
You're going to go with Michael Bisping beating him on 2 weeks' notice.
Yep. I just think he's got nothing to lose.
You're absolutely right.
He's got nothing to lose in this fight. And honestly, all the pressure goes on Rockhold in the fact that, he's the champion. So if you watch the UFC go around, other than Johnson and some of the other ones which we've called out, it's a revolving championship door. I do understand he's got all the skills and all things there. I just think the fact that he's beat him so easily before is fuel for Bisping, and I think it might be the exact opposite for Rockhold. And I think it's a perfect combination for if you want to have an upset, for an upset to happen. Again, I may eat my words on this, but I just have that feeling that, look, Bisping's got nothing to lose. This is your chance. The only shot you're going to get at this, it's been this long before you've gotten a shot. Look, I would not put it past if Rockhold gets him in the first round just because he's swinging for the fences. But I got my pick was on Bisping.
My question for you is, Bisping's fights are usually these full championship round, 3-round decisions.
Yep.
Can Bisping beat Rockhold like that in this fight?
If he keeps it ugly.
If you think he can go 25 minutes with him?
You know, he's got to land something cooking early. He's got to land it early. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I think he runs out of gas. If he gets a 4 in championship rounds, I'm going to eat my words. But I just think that Rockhold's going to come out, and I don't think it's all necessarily confidence. I think a lot of this is arrogance.
Interesting. I mean, I see where you're coming from for sure. And I think Bisping, if he's going to beat him, I think he's going to catch him early. I think that because everyone's got a jaw. Is,
I look at the Verdum fight with Miocic, and you just, for some reason, I don't understand what it is that it seems like every champion forgets what got him there, and then sits there and plays into the hand of the guy they're fighting. It just doesn't make sense to me, and I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm not in that environment as far as the fighting environment, and is it them outsmarting themselves? If I go into this fight, I know what I fought last time, so I need to switch it up. Is that their thinking? And then they end up like outthinking themselves, and then they eat something and it's over.
Yeah, I mean there is the recency bias. Like Miocic dropping Verdum is etched in our head.
No, yeah, definitely,
of course. But
Rousey. I mean, you start looking at all these, even the underdogs, though, Brian. I mean, when you look back, I mean, going way back to Rousey. I mean, and then you looked at Tate and Holm. I mean, that one was Rousey Holm was a little bit more, of an upset. But you just start looking at things that happened. You looked at Holly Holm against Ronda Rousey, and you're like, oh, she's going to beat Tate. And then she's a completely different fighter, which I understand because Tate's a different fighter. But why don't you go with what got you the belt? It just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, it's a fight, but you kind of sold me here on this Bisping thing because there is these two angles where you have this dominant, like a guy who could be a dominant champion, Rockhold, but you do have that outside chance on Bisping. I'm excited for this. I'm more excited for this fight than I was with Weidman, I'll be honest.
No, yeah, definitely. I really thought if it was Rockhold Weidman, I'd pick Rockhold all day because Weidman showed me nothing against Rockhold.
Yeah, and that's amazing.
Not that Bisping did either, but there was two different time frames.
Yeah.
I mean, Weidman and Rockhold was just what pay-per-view were they at?
What, 194?
So what? 5 pay-per-views ago. I mean, I just don't think you make up that much ground.